contrary, her husband, daughter, her reflection, she remained unconvinced she was alive. Because of the current heat wave, she thought she was in hell. Her husband showed her their wedding pictures, a mortgage statement, a photo of their daughter's communion, and she just shook her head. No. And standing in the gallery, looking at Warhol's Elvis print for perhaps the 30th time, Bea wondered if she had a touch of catarrhs. The gallery was almost deserted. It was still morning, a weekday, just her and the king. There were 4 Elvises, 2 in fading black and white, 2 in lurid color, all aiming a 6-gun straight at her. He was wearing what looked like lipstick, on the right side of the law. If this version could have seen the bloated, sequined version wobbly on quaaludes, singing Unchained Melody in his final concert, that smile like a broken boy, what would he have done? Though what would any of us do if faced with their future self? The few people in the gallery may have been there simply to avoid the heat. It was early May, and not yet noon, and it was already oppressive. The air was heavy and dirty, the air of August, an anomaly that was dissected every night on the local weather report. Bea lingered in the Henry Moore Gallery for a bit, his heroic bronzes splayed out, those solid, sensuous women. Moore had been gassed at Cambrai, one of the few survivors of his unit. As a child, he had rubbed liniment onto his rheumatic mother's bare back. She remembered these tidbits from a course she used to teach, the aesthetics of sexuality and erotic art, a class that always drew a crowd. Bea walked into the bright light of the Galleria and sat at the small cafe and ordered an espresso, and wondered if she had spent too much time in this gallery and not enough in others. What happened to the Prado, the Tretyakov in Moscow, the Picasso Museum in Barcelona to witness the great beast of 20th century art? Trips that were planned, or at least mentioned, or at least imagined. How much of life is regret? There should be an app that gives you a running tally, like the remaining battery life on your phone. Through the soaring window, she observed the street below. On the sidewalk, a bearded man stood rooted, staring up at the sun. If she'd had a sketch pad with her, she might have sketched him. As an art student, she'd gone to Florence and carried her sketch pad everywhere, partly an affectation, hoping people would think, there goes an artist. The city was filled with students, smoking and arguing in cafes, as if the future depended on them discovering it. The man across the street hadn't moved. Bea wondered if this was some kind of performance. In terms of aesthetics, there was a fine line between art student and homeless. The man looked to be in his 20s. Maybe someone was filming it from a vantage Bea couldn't see, and this was part of a school project. It wasn't the kind of day where you stared at the sun to feel it on your face, enjoying the first rays of spring. This was already a vengeful sun. Bea watched him unbutton his shirt, his face still staring up. He slipped out of his shirt and twirled it over his head like a stripper and let it go. It landed on the roof of a parked car. He was partly obscured by the car, but he bent down and Bea guessed that he was taking off his pants. He came up holding them. He twirled them too and let them go, and they landed on the patio of a cafe behind him. Another dip, and he came up with his underwear, which he slingshotted into traffic. It landed on the windshield of an SUV, and the wipers came on and immediately swept them onto the street. The man resumed his pose, staring up at the sun, naked, his thin, pasty body shining like a landed trout. People on the sidewalk stopped and crossed the street to avoid him. His eyes were closed. They remained closed when the police car stopped. 2 officers got out, a man and a woman. The man had one hand on his hip, ready to pull something out. The woman had her head bent to one shoulder, talking into a microphone fastened to her uniform. They approached the man, talking to him. The man remained impassive, eyes closed, staring up. The woman cop saw his pants on the patio.